Larry Hagman became famous as the ruthless J.R. Ewing. The villain audiences loved to hate on Dallas. Yet behind the smirk and cowboy swagger, the man was far more complicated, burdened by addiction, secrets, and a family life marked by pain. He was born in Fort Worth, Texas on September 21, 1931, to teenage mother Mary Martin, who later became a Broadway icon, and Ben Hagman, a district attorney whose marriage to Mary fell apart when Larry was still small. By age 5, he was living with his grandmother as his mother chased stardom, and his father drank heavily. From the beginning, Larry was caught between ambition and abandonment. His childhood was spent in strict boarding schools and military academies. He was restless, lonely, and often in trouble, once setting a dorm room on fire by accident. He escaped into bars long before he was old enough, the whiskey blurring the ache of a mother who was never around and a father who tried to teach him to be a man while drowning in liquor. But along with rebellion came a growing fascination with performance. Acting became a lifeline, a place where he could transform, escape, become someone else. At 18, Hagman enrolled in Bard College in New York but dropped out after one semester. Classrooms couldn't hold his attention. The stage could. He worked around theaters sweeping floors, running props, and grabbing any role he could find. He bounced between Texas and New York, building his skills before the military drafted him in 1952. Serving in the Air Force, he found his place not in combat, but in entertainment units, performing skits and directing plays for soldiers stationed abroad. His charisma made him popular, and even though he occasionally got caught smuggling alcohol, charm saved him from harsh discipline. After his service, he lived in London with his Swedish girlfriend, Maj Axelsson, teaching acting and performing in British theatre. Critics noticed him, and when he returned to the U.S., roles came quickly in regional theaters. He played Stanley Kowalski in A Streetcar Named Desire with raw intensity, yet backstage he drank heavily. Friends looked the other way. He was talented but unstable. His career turned upward when he landed a role on Broadway in the Warm Peninsula in 1958, followed by television roles including The Twilight Zone and Search for Tomorrow, where drinking nearly got him fired. Still, he managed to charm producers into giving him more work. In 1965, he auditioned for a new sitcom about an astronaut and a genie. More than 200 actors showed up, but Hagman improvised his audition, smirking and gesturing as if calling an invisible genie. It worked. He became Major Tony Nelson in I Dream of Jeannie, and America loved him. But while viewers saw a clean-cut hero, behind the scenes he battled worsening alcoholism. Barbara Eden later revealed that he often arrived hungover or unable to remember lines, and producers nearly fired him more than once. Eden fought to keep him on the show, believing no one else could play the role. His salary demands eventually changed television contracts forever, when he insisted on higher pay and won. Still, substance use escalated. He smoked marijuana between takes and in 1968, secretly spiked the on-set coffee with LSD, what he thought was a prank, but which left cast and crew hallucinating and production halted for hours. When Jeannie ended in 1970, Hagman struggled to find roles that stuck. His drinking made him unreliable, and several projects failed. By the mid-1970s he was considered difficult. Then he walked into an audition for a new primetime drama called Dallas. The role of J.R. Ewing wasn't meant to be central, but Hagman delivered lines with such cold charm that writers rewrote the show around him. When Dallas premiered in 1978, he became the centerpiece, the villain viewers couldn't look away from. At the height of the show's success, Hagman was consuming as many as 5 bottles of champagne per day. Sometimes he poured bourbon over cereal for breakfast. CBS considered firing him, but without J.R. there was no Dallas. When the episode Who Shot J.R. aired in 1980, 83 million Americans tuned in, and eventually 350 million worldwide. Hagman used that power, demanding a massive salary and royalty rights. The studio balked until they realized the show couldn't survive without him. The deal made him one of the richest actors in television history, earning millions in syndication, merchandise, and international sales. He purchased a sprawling California estate with a runway, helicopter, and 3 pools, converted it to solar power, and lived like royalty. But the drinking never stopped. He collapsed more than once on set, hallucinated during shoots, and required urgent detox, always returning to work days later. In 1995, after decades of abuse, Hagman's liver was failing. Doctors told him he had 6 months to live. He underwent a 15-hour transplant surgery and survived. Yet soon after, he was seen smoking and drinking again, a symbol of how addiction held him even as he tried to speak publicly about recovery. He later became a spokesperson for sobriety campaigns, though relapse continued for years. When Dallas ended in 1991, he struggled again to find roles with the same impact. A 1996 miniseries revival brought him back as JR, but the magic had faded. He explored stranger creative paths, including a psychedelic album inspired by LSD experiences, and a memoir titled Hello Darlin', which sold well but omitted darker aspects of his private life. He appeared in Nip/Tuck, Scream Queens, and a 2012 TNT revival of Dallas, filming several episodes while battling throat cancer. He kept performing until he physically could not. Larry Hagman died on November 23, 2012, at 81 years old. Yet the public legacy was only part of the story. In 2016, his daughter Kristina released a memoir that challenged the myth of the fun-loving Hollywood star. She described growing up in a house filled with parties, drugs, and affairs. She claimed her father had over 20 extramarital relationships, and that as a child she was exposed to adult situations she didn't understand. During a party at their home, she was assaulted while her parents were away. She loved her father but felt abandoned, both emotionally and physically. She remembered tripping on LSD with him as a child, an experience she didn't fully understand until she was older. The glamorous lifestyle so often celebrated had a darker cost, one paid by those closest to him. In his final moments, drifting in and out of consciousness, Hagman repeatedly told Kristina, "Forgive me." He didn't explain what exactly he sought forgiveness for, and she didn't ask. Only later did she piece together memories, the chaotic childhood, the pain hidden behind laughter and wealth. For all his charm and talent, Larry Hagman was a man of contradictions. Beloved and troubled, generous and reckless, adored by millions yet distant from his own children. He left behind a legacy of groundbreaking television, unforgettable characters, and a story that mirrored the very roles he played: brilliant, messy, intoxicating, and tragic.